caught in the crossfire.
Hey everybody, HideYourCarry here, and here also is Rolwen.
Hello.
We are back to do another VOD review. Today we are doing the semifinals, Game 4 of LEC, which is Origin versus Fnatic. We did LCK, and I released that video a little bit ago, so you can go back and watch that if you haven't seen it. And otherwise, we just want to dive in and look at the comps, look at their win conditions, and see how they play out their team plans.
Right. Now, if I have ever seen two super short range compositions go at each other, this trumps that. We are talking extremely short range. I'm telling you, all 10 champions could be melee, and that wouldn't make a difference to my analysis right now. And but it's actually a really interesting draft from both sides. So I want to get your thoughts first on the top lane matchup.
Okay.
Right.
I think that, yeah, it's interesting. One interesting thing to me that kind of goes across the entire comp for Fnatic and for OG, but it's also true of the top lane, is that there seems to be a lot more early game pressure, at least laning pressure and stuff like that on the side of Fnatic, just because they have the Rek'Sai to influence lanes really quickly, they have the Aatrox, which can put a little pressure on, and then they have Pyke, whereas OG is a little more scaly. Maybe not necessarily completely, because they're not a scaling comp necessarily, but they're definitely not as aggressive in early levels as Fnatic seems to be. I don't know, and that's true in the top lane in particular.
Right. I think we have to put our finger in how the lanes can set up for the junglers, right? Yeah. On the side of OG, as you said, it sort of feels like, yeah, Gangplank can slow enemies, right? Either that with E or with ultimate when the time comes. But that sort of applies to the bot lane as well. I think obviously Silas can do a little bit more with the gap closer,
but he's against a Lissandra too.
Yeah, so not really that effective.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, especially since Skarner's a little weaker early and has to get some levels under his belt. I don't see him doing massive things top or mid early game here. I do think he has some I do think that Kai'Sa can be a little vulnerable. She has the speed up, but she doesn't have a dash necessarily, so maybe he could look for plays down there. But mostly I think he's just looking to get levels under his belt and counter gank. Whereas Rek'Sai can make more proactive plays.
Now, what's Ash's rune keystone?
Lethal Tempo, it looks like.
Oh, it is, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's actually kind of interesting. Because, yeah, in the bot lane, Origin can look to overwhelm Kai'Sa with slows. Because that's really all they got pre-level 6.
Because the only peel that Pyke provides is to pull you either closer to the Kai'Sa or to, engage past them. So it's a little awkward to peel.
Right. I mean, he can do a Singed impression, right, and throw them behind, but that's kind of tricky to pull off. So I actually find it rather interesting that the Kai'Sa is going for the pressy attack against a poke in a way a poke lane. But we shall see how it plays out.
I think one thing that makes sense for me there is that they are looking to get a lane advantage, and I think that because I think that every lane on Fnatic has really good gank setup. interestingly enough. So I think Rek'Sai can be looking to make plays, and maybe press the attack is a bit more of an all-in skirmishy keystone.
Yeah,
But
capitalize
I see what you mean.
on the opportunities that you actually get. Yeah, I just don't see like a benefit, because as we said on the LCK bot review, we always try to look at the uptime of runes.
Yeah.
And certainly lethal tempo is a weird choice, because sometimes you want to proc it if you don't have it because you were poking earlier.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Eventually, in team fights or skirmishes, you're gonna get it anyway. But press the attack, well, you have to attack 3 times to actually get the uptime benefit of it. Also, a rather interesting combination, that there is no heal in the side of Fnatic. So I think you nailed it in saying that they're looking to capitalize on certain engages, because they do have the
well, and that's
setup,
why they went the press the attack, I think, because they're looking to set up either 2v2 plays, or more likely they're looking to set up 3v2 or 3v3 plays with their jungler. Because I mean, you have to engage on the Tom, which is a little awkward. But I mean, you can make something happen with Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai coming in provides some CC, so does Pyke. You can get that Tom bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Bouncy toad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what frogs do anyway, so that's fine.
All right. So, on paper, who would you give the advantage in the early game, in the mid game, and the late game, and why?
I think that if OG makes it to 6 without losing too many people or too much pressure, they are going to be in great shape, because at level 6 they get a ton of pressure, because Skarner can then compete with Rek'Sai for map pressure. They have the global presence of GP, and they have skirmish power in Tom and Ashe appearing on your face with an ult. And Sylas also will hit his ult. Like, their team likes hitting level 6, and so I think before level 6 or around there, Fnatic can look for an advantage that they can play off of, because I think Fnatic needs to have a lane that is winning, that they can dive over and over and over again and get something successful on, I think.
A substantial lead.
Yeah.
For me, one obviously, I definitely agree with the point that Origin really likes getting level 6 with this composition. But it's also on the fact that their engage tools, in a way, sort of feel like non-committal ones.
Yeah.
Because they can throw down the Gangplank ult, they can
the Ashe
throw
arrow.
the arrow, and if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, well, we contemplate your life decisions and back off.
Tom is a little more committal, but if Tom Kench is going into the middle of a team with, let's say, a Skarner or even a Sylas in his belly, it's going to be scary, because Sylas is going to have Lissandra ult or Aatrox ult or Pyke ult. And so if they hit an Ashe arrow, that execute's going to get gross, and I think both teams are set up pretty well to use that execute, because, I mean, both teams have some pretty solid CC in lockdown.
Yeah. In the case of Fnatic, it's just when I mentioned how melee-like these compositions are, Fnatic has to be in your face. Aatrox, Rek'Sai, Lissandra, even Kai'Sa and Pyke. It really feels like Fnatic is going to have to go big or go home.
I think they're looking for the right skirmishes, and they need to look for them early. I think, in some way, Broxah should be taking a much more aggressive pathing than usually would be, optimal. I don't think he should just trade jungles. Like, I think if they vertical jungle and don't get anything massive off of it, that's good for OG.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that point as well, we have to look at resources across the board. The fact that both of Fnatic's top lane and jungler are no mana, like just champions based on cooldown rather on a secondary resource, that's actually puts them at a little bit of an advantage when it comes to just being there, and if they have an advantage, a health advantage, they can just use that. But in the case of Afari and Cold with Gangplank and Skarner, if they are spamming those abilities to stay in lane or to stay farming, right? Well, argument could be made about Skarner with the Spires and how they work, right? But they will run out of mana and they will have to back at certain points in the game. So yeah, it's actually really interesting. And I am excited to see where and what exactly Skarner does after the Scuttle Crabs are not a point of contention. When it's about deep vision, when it's about shadowing lanes that may be ganked by the early power of Rek'Sai, and how that ends up working. Right?
Because Skarner is a really good counter ganker, I think, and that's a good job. Like, if you've engaged and you've used all your cooldowns, you now can't dash away from a Skarner who's going to lock you down and run at you.
Yeah.
Whereas ganking, they're just going to use their abilities to run.
And if there is a Rek'Sai somewhere around there, well, tough luck.
Exactly.
All right. Should we start?
Yes, one interesting thing I wanted to mention, because you mentioned the mana discrepancy and the top lane. I do also want to point out, though, although Aatrox has some built-in sustain, he has Electrocute, whereas GP does have the Grasp, which GP has the oranges and the Grasp. So Aatrox is going to have the mana advantage, quote-unquote, but there's a possibility GP could have a health advantage if he plays it right. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that could be the case. Also, just on that factor, I just want to touch on wave clear, because there comes a point where just Gangplank barrels are enough to wipe out minion waves.
Yeah.
There comes a point where Nuke Duck on Silas will just be able to
Q a wave,
shrink a wave, with the Q, one proc of the passive, and then another proc of the passive to finish them off. And Ash W, she does have to attack the minions consecutively, but, well, what can you do? But on the side of Fnatic, their wave clear
just Lissandra
kind of obligates them to be in the middle of the wave.
Well, and that's interesting
or really
to me
close
as well,
by,
because it means Lissandra has a tough time going into side lanes if there's pressure being put on a single lane by a lot of people, because Lissandra needs to be there, whether it's to fight or just to clear the waves, because she's the only person who can. So that restricts their strategies later in the game a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think wave clear under pressure is definitely going to be one of Fnatic's weaknesses this game.
Especially if OG gets a Baron.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in. One thing to note is, in this whole series, basically, is that Rolwen has either watched these games or knows what has happened, and I tried to keep myself spoiler-free, but I know what happens in the games overall, but I kept myself blind to any clips or anything from the game, so I have no idea what's happening. So I'm going to be reacting in real time, and he has a bit more of a general idea of what's coming.
Although having a bad memory in this scenario is beneficial.
Fair enough. Let's dive in.
Let's go.
So I'm curious to see where the junglers start.
As the indicator for the first Drake appears, Mountain Drake first for the likes of Origin is
really
absolutely
nice.
Amazing.
Oh my god, that's a great RNG for them. But the issue is, I don't think that they are going to have Dragon Prio unless they play it right. I mean, their team comp is a little... I mean, if they can keep that Drake from being taken by Fnatic until level 6, they're in great shape. But Fnatic should look to prioritize this mountain to keep it from them.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. There comes a point, if Origin takes the Mountain Drake early, Skarner just becomes this wave clear, jungle wave clear beast that's just going to take the Herald, and it's going to take everything, and consecutive dragons, of course, away from you, and there's nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah, so I think any other dragon, as much as like Dragon RNG is interesting, like I think any other dragon would not have been nearly as important to the state of the game as Mountain. That's really interesting.
I would say Ocean.
Oh yeah,
just for the. Yeah, but who doesn't like an early Ocean?
I mean, yeah. I think early Ocean is the best Drake in the game, unquestionably. But just comp-wise, comp versus comp-wise, I think Mountain is really scary.
Yeah. Now we do see the junglers on the same side. Cold might be spotted.
Oh, he was not.
And the river.
Well,
he isn't.
I mean, now they'll know, but...
Now he gave it away.
But what this means is no vertical jungle. But Rek'Sai also took an interesting route. So I'm very curious because if Cold gets this gank off, no, never mind. I was gonna say if Cold gets this gank off, he might be able to double grab. But he would probably want to path to his blue side. Oh my.
This is
Oh, that flash! Oh no, that was a mistake.
That definitely was a mistake by Alfari.
Oh, he's got him. The red buff.
Yep.
Oh, never mind.
Nope.
Oh,
wasn't enough.
Oh, my eyes.
Dora's shield OP.
I want to go back and see. So, let's see just before he was pushed up, and I think he felt like he was safe, but he got caught by every piece of that Q. Yeah.
All the sweet spots,
yeah. That flash, yeah.
Yeah, not the best.
So that's just a mechanical misplay. That's exactly what Fnatic needs. So we talked about they need to get a lane ahead and have a lane to be able to prioritize and play around. Or I did. I don't know if you agree, but
yeah.
But that's what they needed. So that's a big advantage for the Aatrox now.
Yeah, that's actually a huge show of bravado because we saw 4 flashes spent on that play.
Yeah.
And I don't know necessarily if they were needed, aside from the Whippo flash just to don't die for first blood.
Yeah.
I guess
Alfari would have needed to use his flash. He just used it at exactly the wrong time. And that was mostly bad luck. But yeah, that flash from Cold was not great either. Interesting.
Yeah.
I think this is really...
He tried to salvage the play, but wasn't enough.
This is really scary now because Rek'Sai can just do this. He's sitting topside, and he's looking for a dive. If they get this dive off and deny these minions, GP is going to be kind of out of the game for the next few minutes.
Yeah, I don't think at this point in time that they've got enough to dive. No. Particularly if there is a threat of, as you correctly say, like Skarner's amazing. Well,
counter ganking ability. Yeah.
Better than decent counter ganking.
Yeah, I think pre-6 it's not amazing, but it's good. Especially under a tower. But, I mean, he also knows, well, he just got a free camp there. So I guess he's just going to leave, he's going to take his advantage, and he's going to rotate to another side of the map. He needs to clear his blue buff in that area.
Yeah. One important thing, though, is that Gangplank doesn't really mind being pushed into the turret at this point in the game. As a melee AD champion, there is... very little room for error when it comes to last hitting on the turret, unless a barrel is used. Then it gets tricky. So yeah, we do see the minion dynamics going on right now. 23 to 23, 24 in the top lane. Parity in jungle, parity in mid lane. A slight advantage.
You say parity in jungle, I would disagree because there is parity in jungle, but Rek'Sai is going to be up a camp once he grabs blue buff, and he might even look for an invade here. I'm not sure because the issue is Skarner doesn't have any camps to grab.
But there is a top laner to kill.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad. Oh no. So
Reckless, what are you doing here?
So they wasted a TP and they gave back that kill. That's awkward because honestly, top lane was the thing I was looking to play around to get an advantage in Snowball. And now top lane's behind. And bot lane's behind too, now that the ADC used his TP. So that's awkward.
And this is looking like a forced lane swap, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, Reckless is top lane now. Might as well send the Pyke top lane as well. We shall see if this play gives them anything else.
What I was talking about, how Origin just wants to safely get to 6. Skarner now has just a free path to 6. He did miss out on his Krugs, but he's going to be able to get 6 now without having to have any huge bad skirmishes. Fnatic kind of gave up a couple of minutes of pressure, and that's going to allow OG to kind of come online.
Yeah. I do wonder what were the circumstances that led to mid lane being untouched by both junglers, particularly for Rek'Sai, given that Lissandra does have an incredible amount of setup. And yes, Nuke Duck on Sylas can be a little slippery with the E, get a little bit of heal with the W once he drops below 40%, but I don't think those circumstances are enough to warrant just not going to the lane at all, right?
I think part of it was just a pathing and priority thing. I think that Rek'Sai went for that top play, and it worked out, and then he kind of needed to get to his bot side, and then he went for, instead of a play mid where it was kind of awkward, like Sylas can get away pretty easily unless he's pushed up. So if the wave is not in position, Rek'Sai should just go and clear those camps. I think that it's more of he decided to prioritize top rather than mid.
Yeah.
And it worked on that first play, except that his top laner then went in and died. So I don't know. I agree with you that they maybe should have been looking for that. But
yeah, now that Nuke Duck does have the Lissandra ultimate, important to know that once you have hijacked an ultimate, I do believe that you cast it at no cost. So the only cost you incur is the 75 mana, I believe, of stealing it. It's just Sylas is so versatile with this Lissandra ult, as using it as a disengage, using it as a follow-up or initiation, right? Now, do you think that with how the game is right now, should Origin or Fnatic try to push a boundary or try to test their luck with a particular play that you can think of?
I mean, I think that we're looking at Dragon right now. OG made it to level 6 without the Drake being taken, and I think they are should be looking to get priority and take this Drake, or contest it at least. Because I think if OG gets this Mountain Drake, it's very good for them. It looks like they're giving it, but I mean, Fnatic needs to get it quickly, because if there's a skirmish around Dragon with all these ults up, I think it looks very good.
Yeah, and we see the CC layering.
So they decided to grab a kill instead of Drake. They traded. I think that's fine, because I don't think Fnatic gets that much from this Mountain Drake, besides Kai'Sa being good at taking Baron. But I think OG would have gotten a lot more for it.
Yeah.
It looks like there's another mountain coming up too, so that's actually worked out. I think that trade worked out for OG. I wouldn't have, in a vacuum, I don't know if I would agree with it. But because a second mountain came up, they can just grab that on the next one.
Yeah, it is most unusual what happened in the top lane. Next dragon is actually Infernal.
Oh, sorry, it took a second.
The UI trolled us this time.
Darn, my bad.
I was saying, it was most unusual that the ultimate had to be forced from Whippo on that top lane engage.
Yeah.
Alfari could proc Demolish on the turret. I wonder. Yes, his turret is untouched, relatively speaking. Mm-hmm. Will we see a rush for the turret for the turret plates? Given that Rek'Sai is taking.
Well, certainly from Fnatic, because they're going to get this for free. I would like to ask you, why do you think they've decided to? Why do you think OG has decided to deprioritize these early objectives? Like, why do they not want to fight for these?
I think that is a mistake. I could
Yeah.
see the reasoning being that the only true items that are on their side is those stopwatches ready to use. Because revolver, yes, a little bit of extra damage is there. The sheen is helping a little bit with those Qs and the barrels, but that's about it. Whilst on the side of a Fnatic, Rek'Sai does have the warrior enchant. Aatrox, well, it's a toss. So I guess this is a mistake on of Origin, an Origin mistake
One
of
thing
deprioritizing that area.
One thing that could be said is that GP was pushed in, so it's hard to have priority to go rotate to it. But that was a choice by them. He could have backed a wave earlier and come back and been able to even out the wave. I honestly, I don't know why I think GP having its ult ready, Sylas and Skarner being at their point they're at right now, I don't know. I think maybe bot lane could have rotated up, and I mean they can get there faster than or more quickly than Fnatic can with Tom Kenschult. I'm very interested why they didn't commit more to the Rift Herald.
From a shot calling perspective, I would take a wild guess in saying that because the Skarner ult is down, in notwithstanding that the Aatrox ult is also down, was a contributing factor to Rift Herald being given up. So
Indeed.
yeah.
But I think with the numbers advantage Tom Kench can provide, I don't know. One thing I would say is the reason I'm more likely to try and have them go for this is because they have you may not be able to see it with the pause, but they have a 5-3 like plate standing advantage in the bot lane, so they can give up a couple of they can give up one wave, I think, for this play and not lose their tower immediately.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't know. I mean, I think maybe they're playing it safe because they think they have a better scaling comp. I don't know if I would necessarily agree entirely, but I think in the mid game we can see some of their power on these picks. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We do see a bit of an engage in bot lane.
Yeah.
Likely not to result in much, or a flash at least.
No, I mean that was really good. This 2v2.
Yeah, that's likely. That means an extra turret plate might be taken in this push.
Is there a good lane? Nobody has any plates from Fnatic. Fnatic hasn't gotten any plates, which is awkward because you're looking for a lane to get that first tower on. They may look for a dive here top, though, and I think that's a good idea to try for, because if they kill GP, you're going to the global user, like we talked about in the LCK VOD. You're going to the global user, and then you're looking for a dive. So if they can get this dive off, they could get this entire tower, but I don't know if they're going to be able to. GP ulted smartly there.
Yeah, basically removed the factor of the minion wave to support the dive. I think that was really a good use of the cannon barrage there. Yeah. What I would say is that maybe, just maybe, in the shot calling mind of OG, they're just looking to save their cooldowns, as many as they can, for a potential skirmish or fight to get that Infernal Drake, because that is actually really important for their Gangplank, and their Ashe. Obviously Sylas, depending on what build he goes for.
Another thing... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't think that Sylas is necessarily pressured into building the more defensive style build this game, but we could actually see it. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Go ahead.
That's a good trade there from Sylas. I was going to say another reason they may not have wanted to leave bot lane is because they were getting a trade advantage there. I think they may have said, hey, I think we can get more of an advantage bottom lane. We want to stay here 2v2, and they do have a pretty solid gold lead just off of the way they've been playing lanes. And I think a lot of that comes from... I don't know actually where a lot of that gold lead comes from.
Plates.
Yeah, plates. Yeah, it's all plates.
Yeah, and obviously Rek'Sai, now she has summoned the Herald, but this is mostly to just get some extra gold.
They lost first tower with the Rift Herald,
Plates
which I don't
on.
like.
Yeah. It's likely that they will get the extra plate. I am not sure. Yeah, the minion wave seems like it's going to be...
I mean, a lot of this game right now is coming down to the 2v2 bot advantage, which is interesting to me. Bot is just playing well from the Origin's side. One thing I would say is that I don't like that they had to use Rift Herald on a tower with a bunch of plates left, just because it's better to use it against a tower that's already lower, because it deals true damage. But they were kind of stuck.
Ooh. Anti-fun mechanic, but useful nonetheless.
I mean, that's why you pick Tom. That's why he's banned.
Yeah. That's why you bench the Kench.
Yeah, indeed.
That was actually a really precipitated use of the Ash Arrow onto Hylissang on Pyke, because there was really no follow-up, and he was rather healthy, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that did net them some time, at least.
Yeah, now they have mid-prio, which is interesting. I think they're going to try and get this mid lane pushed out, and then look for this play on Infernal. Let's see how this fight goes, because this is a big one for the game, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Also, having the Gangplank ult up at this point, not so much the Skarner ult, but I don't think that's necessarily relevant at this point, if they can just pressure Fnatic off of the dragon.
Yeah, the TP advantage there, though, means that it's going to be awkward.
Yeah, it does look like Fnatic are just going to take
take it.
But will we see an engage outside of mid lane now?
Doesn't look like it. Unless Fnatic want to fight.
And this,
they may lose mid tower for it, but
yeah, at least it's getting a little bit of damage there, but
that was just
it's actually irrelevant.
Huh.
Yeah, it's actually important that Origin was out of position, but again, the usage of the Skarner ultimate allowed Fnatic to take that advantage.
I think it was less about out of position, although the GP should have rotated down earlier, and more about, yeah, the usage of the ults, because we knew that Infernal was so important. And, yeah, so using the ult a minute before Dragon comes up is a little bit awkward.
Yeah. Now, will it be relevant that Fnatic gets to actually capitalize on the benefit that they get from Infernal in the later stages of the game, or will Origin, through their pick potential that they do have, exploit their composition accordingly?
The interesting thing to me is I think some of it came on both of these dragons. It came down to more that Origin would have used those dragons very well, and it's less about Fnatic being amazing with them. So I think that rather than seeing the effect, unless they take Fnatic takes a quick Baron, I think mostly we just won't see the effect of Origin having the advantage.
Yeah, it's the denial dragons.
Yeah.
Now, a rather interesting point now on the game is that we do see Rek'Sai going for what appears to be the Sterix gauge.
Not the Infinity Edge?
Not the Infinity Edge. Thank you. I forget his name. The SK jungler. PTSD. Do not remember his name.
Okay.
Yeah. But this turret is absolutely huge for Origin to open up the map for those picks. But my point was that I actually disagree with the Sterix gauge on Rek'Sai at this point. I would actually think that an early Guardian Angel would have been better to support the dive onto Origin's carries. But now we see the engage. And
Tom Kench.
Denied.
Oh, Tom Kench just won that entire fight for them. Wow.
Oh, that is
Yeah, that
painful for
entire fight was on
Fnatic.
Tom Kench. Well done. All right. I
Not much to say about that fight other than, yeah, Tam Kench just
I
denied
think
Rek'Sai then.
right there, that's why you engage on the Tom. Like, as awkward as it is, that's why you often have to engage on the Tom Kench.
Right.
Because that will happen. If you engage on the Ashe, as great as your catch is, like, you know, you're not going to get her.
Yeah, they did start the fight onto the Tam Kench, but then they shifted the focus to the ulting Skarner. Skarner goes onto the belly of Tam Kench, and then Rek'Sai just
and Silas
dashes
was just able
onto
to clean
nothing.
It up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Silas and Ashe could clean that one up.
Yeah, I think that was a lapse of judgment of we Fnatic saying we're already here. Let's just try to.
I also think part of it was
forward.
they weren't all in perfect position to start that fight. I think they just saw an opportunity and felt like, oh, we have to go for this, and they got collapsed on.
And one thing that it's actually interesting, knowing that Origin did take the Tam Kench, it's actually interesting to point out that against Tam Kench, you want to have multiple sources of threat or AoE threat to actually confuse the Tam Kench player on, oh, where do I ult? Where
yeah.
not where do I ult, but who do I swallow?
Yeah.
And when they do come out, like it's likely that both of us are gonna get CC'd, right? That's why we do get some sack picks from now and then against Tam Kench.
But with their comp, that can be tough to do because oftentimes their engages are let's get a pick with Pyke into Lissandra ult, and then it's very clear who you're targeting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth mentioning that CC abilities are this huge sign of hit this guy right here.
Yeah.
And Tam Kench just denies that.
Yeah.
But also, I think we mentioned bottleneck compositions in the LCK video, and I think Fnatic is reaching that point. Ooh, we do see a fight. Some oranges, and it was K.
And nobody dies.
Yeah.
I mean, OG gets a huge... Oh, yeah, I mean, OG gets a huge advantage there, and then they can collapse. Goddamn Tom Kench.
That was
the flank.
Betrayal.
They don't have the mountain. Now, if OG had the mountain here, this is the moment where, like, if OG had the mountain, they'd just immediately be able to take Baron, but because they didn't get it, it's harder.
Yeah, either make a threat of taking Baron.
Yeah.
But another lapse of judgment, because in the end it nets them both the flank and Patrick attacking Hylissang.
I think there you just have to give up tier 2. If they're taking tier 2 mid there, they aren't getting Baron, and so I think you just gift it and you wait until your people are back up to contest things. I don't know. I think they stood too far forward.
Right. Now, there comes a point where having non-combat summoners on your 3 laners, right? So Whippo, Nemesis, and Reckless actually kind of hurts you.
Yeah.
Because, yes, definitely you want to have Whippo or Lissandra in the side lane, the farthest away from Baron. But now the lane assignment on the other 2 lanes actually gets a little bit fussy.
Well, especially since we talked about how Lissandra is their only wave clear.
Yeah, fast wave clear.
Yeah.
That was just pure betrayal.
Nothing much they could do.
Yeah, here's where I genuinely don't know what was the intention of Hilly.
The plan, yeah.
Yeah, of just dashing forward with on a numbers disadvantage situation where there was not much to get.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say just back up, give that tower, and reset. Because if they're taking that mid tower, they don't have time to get Baron before your guys are back up. It's too early in the game. The respawn timers are too low. Now
there's no mountain on
Now
Origin.
you've given up tempo, and that just lost you an extra tower or two. And it's also probably going to lose you pressure on the Baron.
Yeah. Now, I do not think that Origin... I don't think it would be wise to actually threaten the Drake at this point.
One thing is
the Baron.
Yeah, one thing is you can, like, quote-unquote threaten it like they just did, and then it reminds Fnatic, we could be there anytime, you have to keep this warded, or we're gonna just melt it.
Right, and though Origin does have Skarner and or Tamkench to tank the Baron,
they don't.
We have to think of the turn, right?
Oh yeah.
If Origin are caught doing it, I don't think their turn ability is actually strong.
Well, and also Fnatic is really good at engaging into the pit.
Right. Yeah, definitely agree. So that was wise to just, as you said, threaten of reminding, putting some fear onto Fnatic of saying, you have to ward this, you have to be aware that we might be crazy enough to do it, but
well, and if you keep forcing them to check it, there's that one time when they have to check it where they walk into your trap. So, it's just keeping them unsure.
And now, pick compositions usually have, all compositions really, have a default version of how they want to play the game. They have an optimal version, and they have a default. Like, if things are going bad, what do we do? Pick compositions really don't have something to default to. So it's great for Origin to be ahead.
Yeah.
But Fnatic just feels like every engage they do or every engage they initiate is just going to end up in chaos.
Yeah, because that's not what their team is designed to do. Their team is designed to pick somebody off and catch somebody in transition, but Tom kind of stopped that.
Yeah.
I don't really know if this... I mean, obviously Fnatic is making mistakes now, but I don't think that... it's their fault as much. I think that a lot of the mistakes are coming from comp issues.
I think it's definitely a mix of both.
Yeah.
Oh, focus, a poor jungler. That's painful. And we do see a semblance of a trade.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're getting the mountain. I do think it doesn't matter as much when OG has the Baron, anyway. But if the game goes to another Baron, then that'll be good for Fnatic.
Or a base rush.
Oh, true. I doubt that'll come up. Look at the tower situation.
Of course. And it comes a point where no matter how creative and how perfectly executed a pike flank is, he's never going to be as useful and immediately powerful as Tahm Kench at this point in the game.
One thing that's wild to me is that Fnatic has not gotten the mid-tier 1 tower yet, even with their early mountain. That's not good for them.
They just haven't had the opportunity to get anywhere close.
Yeah.
That barrel
was a
nasty.
pretty barrel. Oh my god.
A little bit of overkill, but it looked cool.
I would say ban his GP the rest of the series, but oh wait.
Oh wait.
This game's before. It's the last game. Yeah.
And checking really fast on items, we do see not as a defensive of a Silas build as you can go.
I'm gonna pause it because I have the feeling that we're about to have something happen.
Yeah, of course. Lich Bane is actually really strong in this sense.
Yeah.
Extra movement speed as well is great. Cooldown reduction.
You were
is
right
great.
that he ended up going more glass cannon build. This game.
I do have to call out that only Reckless has paid the oh no, Reckless and Hilly have paid the Skarner tax, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine.
I mean,
Lissandra,
does Lissandra need to pay the tax?
I would argue for both sides of that argument or that question.
Well, because to me, Lissandra and Aatrox have reasons that you don't want to ult them into your team. Like, you know, Aatrox has his ult if they don't murder him, and then Lissandra has she can ult herself out of it and heal. But she is Glass Cannon, so if she gets ulted, she may get popped. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess that's the root of the problem that I feel here, that both Aatrox and Lissandra, to effectively use their ultimates as defensive abilities, they have to be able to cast them, and if the CC chain doesn't allow them to, they will just disappear without ever casting their ultimate. So yeah. Well, we may have a fight on our hands now.
And they both went very, very aggressive builds. So, yeah, they're squishier than they normally would be. So let's see.
I do regret the fact that there is only a cloth armor building into the Guardian Angel now. Now, I do understand that Sterak's Gauge will give Rek'Sai some extra tenacity when it pops, but I don't think that's worth.
Yeah. I think maybe his idea was he needed to make plays, and the Sterak's Gauge would be a little more. I don't know, but Guardian Angel does that too.
Yeah, at least it's not Infinity Edge. At the very least.
Now they've broken the base.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting that Origin decided to just go 5-man as a pick composition, and this is mirroring what Fnatic wants to do as a sort of team fight composition. As they are behind, their team fight is not that good.
I think the issue is that Fnatic doesn't have a true frontline, and so I think Origin's point is we're up 9,000 gold. Good luck team fighting us. None of you can step forward because if an Ash Arrow hits any of you, you die.
Right. If you're close.
Yeah, I say that as the Ash Arrow does not kill someone. But my point still stands.
Yeah. Now this is really far-fetched.
Why are they going for the fight after the turret dies? That's confusing.
That is rather confusing. They are zoned off by the Gangplank ultimate, and now there is really nothing Fnatic can do other than...
No, they don't have a tower to go hide behind.
Yeah. Other than run, probably punish an overextending OG member, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
And now, good luck in the next Baron top lane contest.
Yeah.
What was that?
Origin just got everything they wanted there. So yeah, I talked about how the next Baron, it was nice for Fnatic, they got this extra mountain, but if they can't even walk anywhere near the Baron pit, it's not going to end up mattering.
Right. And again, I keep coming back to mentioning that sort of argument, but we have to talk about uptime. Both Infernal and Mountain Drakes have uptime if you are proactive, if you are actually there attacking either champions or objectives, whichever applies, right? Whilst Cloud and Ocean Drakes are actually useful throughout the game. It doesn't matter if you're fighting or not. They are useful in some ways, or they contribute something to that. And it's actually really interesting that now there is nothing for Fnatic to do other than find the perfect engage with Tamkench not being present or a similar thing. But we do see Mithy with the best summoner decision he could make at this point in the game, cleanse.
Indeed.
Just in case.
He's not going anywhere. He is standing right next to his team, and he is ready to save anyone's ass if they step forward a little too much.
Right.
Oh my. So, let's see. I mean, Fnatic needs to make a stand here. I don't really see what they do, though.
Yeah, and the more they're just standing there staring at Origin, the
Well,
less likely their engage is gonna
yeah,
work.
and right here we see the wave clear issue we talked about, where Kaisa is struggling. It's going to take her longer to clear these waves, and then they're just 5v4 for the next 10 seconds.
Right, and who else do you send? Do you just send Lissandra? Then
No.
I guess it's just trying to they're just trying to funnel some gold onto Reckless, and if a fight erupts, he can use the Kaisa ultimate, but that's about it.
Well, I think you need the Lissandra there to disengage, too.
Yeah, right. And this is just
Back up, back up, back up. No, 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 no. Just back up. There's not much they can do.
Not really. They can look good in Sonia's.
Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty good Zonya's pose. I won't disagree. I'll give respect on Bwipo there. He had a pretty great pose. Stylish. Stylish in defeat.
Yeah.
Oh,
now
that was
we
well
do
played.
see the engage.
This is actually sloppy. Oh, no.
Yeah, it is. Patrick really is really low health, but
yeah, they're fine though. They're just up too much gold.
Rage. Beautiful flash there to dodge the.
I don't know. I just think that is the perfect fight Fnatic was looking for, but Fnatic is just down too much gold to make that work.
Yeah, it's as good as they could have in the end, but wasn't enough, unfortunately, for them.
Oh, that heal.
Yep.
And that's game.
And that is game. They took it slow at some points. They gave up some things at some points, but it seems Origin did have the plan to just plow on and
yeah.
No need for another Baron.
They yeah, I mean, I think they played that late game pretty in a pretty formulaic way. They just went through, when they got the advantages in the late game, they just got more than they should have, maybe, off of some of those plays, and they got the 2 inhibs, and that pressure was just too much for the low wave clear of Fnatic when Fnatic was that far down.
Right, and Fnatic's last chance, the team fight, yes, it was a little sloppy, but that was too little too late.
Yeah.
On the game for them to actually try to come back.
If that fight had happened, 5,000 gold closer, Fnatic's back in the game. But it didn't. It happened when there was a 10,000 gold lead. So
yeah.
At that point, it was a bit too late.
Yeah, and actually seeing the imbalance of dragons compared to gold and kills, it's actually pretty unfortunate for Origin. I think they could have used those dragons to great effect.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they did decide, or they lapsed.
Yeah, they made some interesting choices around the objectives. I mean, they were getting gold advantages while Fnatic was taking those objectives, so it worked out. I do think they could have done more, though. I think they could have been a little more aggressive at that point. That is the one thing I'd say about OG's decision making, is that right around level 7 or 8 for their team, they could have been more proactive because their team does well at that point.
Right, and we have to point out that unless dragons are being soloed or they are being taken after a fight and no objectives elsewhere on the map are being pressured, dragons actually decelerate the game for you, because you have to take time to kill them, and that's time you're not farming, that's time you're not on the map pressuring, etc.
And decelerating this game is good for OG.
Yeah, precisely. So that's it.
Yeah, I think we've said what we need to say. I definitely hope that everybody watching enjoyed this. We're gonna be we're doing a bunch. We will see how many get posted, and then we'll also be, hopefully, if people like it, diving into MSI or other things like that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let us know what you think and come back for more. Thank you for doing this with me, Rolwen, again.
Thanks for having me.
And I'll see you in the next one. Any last words, Rolwen? Any last thoughts or no?
Not much. I guess I am open to feedback if you guys have any. Definitely grateful if you send that our way.
And the last thing
and
is,
see you in the next one.
If anyone saw the LCK one, we seem to have figured out the technical difficulties, but hopefully that stays the case.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have those in the future.
Well, see you next time, and hope you guys enjoyed.
Bye-bye.